Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 77, Meno 70a to c. Meno has just asked Socrates whether arete, virtue, is something teachable or not teachable but exercisable, or neither of those but comes to people naturally or in some other way. He expects Socrates to choose one of those options. However, Socrates answers, O Menon, protumen thethaloi eudokimoi esan entois helesin, kai ethamadzonto, ephipikete kai Pluto, nunde hos emoidoke kai epi Sophia, kai hekista hoitu su hetairu Aristipu politai Larissaioi. O Meno, before now the Thessalians were well reputed among the Hellenes, the Greeks, and admired for horsemanship and wealth, but now, as it seems to me, also for Sophia, and not least those of your friend Aristippus, the citizens of Larissa. The most remarkable point about this answer is that Socrates doesn't give an option. Meno clearly doesn't think that Socrates has answered his question because he doesn't say anything, and we'll see that Socrates has to carry on talking. Meno might think that Socrates is praising him with all the other Thessalians. Oh, by the way, we find out that Meno is from Thessaly. And Meno may think that he is also being indirectly praised when Socrates mentions his friend Aristippus. The fact is that Socrates isn't praising Meno, but he is providing a few well-known facts about Thessalians. He says that before now the Thessalians were well reputed. I'm translating here eudokimoi, more literally seeming to be good. Thus among all the Greeks, the Hellenes, the Thessalians seem to be good at horsemanship and wealth. Horsemanship and wealth means the wealth which they obtain from horsemanship. The wealth is an indicator of how good they are at horsemanship. Thessaly is a large area of relatively flat land to the north of Boeotia, which is to the north of Attica, and this land is very good for horse breeding, which is why Thessalians naturally tended to breed horses, which other Greeks were willing to pay high prices for. Thus the Thessalians are naturally good at horsemanship because their land is naturally good for horse breeding, but they also must have the techne of horsemanship, which is what we have in the Greek. The hippike is hippike techne, the art of horsemanship, and this is something that sons would learn from their fathers. But as a techne, it is also something which has to be practiced. So we find that in Socrates' first response, he's already shown that you can have arete, you can have the characteristic of goodness. In other words, you can be good because of something which is both teachable and exercisable, namely horsemanship, and it's something which comes naturally thanks to the nature of the land and the fact that these things are passed down from generation to generation. Thus arete is not one thing or another, but all of them combined. But Socrates doesn't state this explicitly, and Meno doesn't hear it. Socrates apparently didn't think that Meno would understand this straight away, because this is only the first half of a complex sentence. Socrates uses a men-de structure, which means on the one hand, on the other, or simply we're going to have two parallel statements, proto men, before now men, and then nun de, but now de. Before now men, now de. And in this now clause, Socrates adds a further factor to the combination of factors which make the Thessalians good. And this is that they have, in addition to horsemanship and wealth, Sophia. Why would Sophia, expertise, be in addition to the techne hippike, horsemanship? If the Thessalians are good at horsemanship, they are sophoi in that techne. Clearly the new additional Sophia must be regarded as something other than the expertise that the Thessalians have in horsemanship. Apparently the Thessalians most well reputed for this new Sophia are the citizens of Larissa, the most important polis in Thessaly, among whom we learn is the friend of Meno, Aristippos, a real person, so we can't attribute to Plato a fitting name, Aristippos, the best horse. That's just the sort of name Thessalians would give their children. At the moment, Socrates calls Meno's friend Hetairos. Hetairos is a companion. In the next sentence, we'll find that Aristippus is Meno's erastes. Eros, from which we derive the English word erotic, is lust. And someone who lusts is an erastes. In usual Greek homosexual partnerships, the erastes tended to be the older partner, and he lusted someone obviously younger than himself, and this would be the one lusted, eromenos. It was considered manly to be an erastes, but to be an eromenos was a far more complicated position to be in. Since Socrates has all this personal information, it would indicate that Meno has had no real problem telling Socrates about his relationship with Aristippus. And this hints to the possibility that the dialogue is not the actual beginning of the conversation between Meno and Socrates. Meno has already been talking to Socrates for quite some time, enough time to have given him a few details about his personal life. Meno may have been flattered by Socrates mentioning his lover Aristippus, but Socrates has also mentioned Aristippus here in order to move on to the next stage of trying to get a response out of Meno without giving him one of the options he is expected to give. Socrates now explains why there is this new Sophia in Thessaly, for which the Thessalians are now being as well reputed as they are for horsemanship. Tutu de hymin aetios estin Gorgias, aficomenos gar esten polin erastas epi Sophia elefen aleuadontetus protus, hon hostos erestes in Aristippos, kaiton alon thetalon. The one responsible to you for this is Gorgias, for he arrived in the city, in other words Larissa, and has taken as lusters after Sophia the foremost of the Aleuadai, of whom your luster Aristippus is, and of the other Thessalians. Gorgias is a sophist. He has come all the way from Sicily, and he's been going around central Greece for quite a while, at least 2 decades since he reached Athens. And now he has taken the foremost of the Thessalians, in other words, the aristocrats, but more specifically, I would suggest, the young sons of wealthy families. Aristippus himself, although older than Meno, is still quite a young man. He might be around 30 or so. But what's interesting here is how Socrates portrays the foremost of the Thessalians as lusters after Sophia. This would turn Sophia into a rival for Aristippus's affections. Meno is an eromenos, and Sophia would therefore be an eromene, the feminine form of eromenos. Had Meno not been waiting for Socrates to give him one of the options he asked for at the beginning, he may have reacted to this questioning of the loyalty of Aristippus, unless he too is enthralled by Gorgias. This is what Socrates will now explore, to what extent Meno himself thinks that Gorgias is the great deliverer of Sophia to the Thessalians. Kaide kai tuto to ethos himas ethiken, aphobos te kai megaloprepos apokrines tai e antis ti eretai, hosper e costus e dotas, hate kai autos parechon auton erotan ton Helenon to bulomeno hoti antis buletai, kai udeni hoto uk apokrinomenos. And indeed, he has habituated you, Thessalians, with this habit to answer fearlessly and magnificently or generously if anyone has anything to ask, as is reasonable for those who know, since he himself, presenting himself to any one of the Hellenes who wishes to ask him whatever he wishes, and never failing to answer anybody. This answers our question what the New Sophia is all about. People who know are the people we expect to be able to answer questions, and Gorgias teaches people to be able to answer questions, and that is what enables them to appear to know. Thus, Gorgias provides people with the appearance of expertise, and the fact that they can answer any question by anybody means that they will appear to have expertise in any field at all, which is why the Sophia here is so broad. We don't know which expertise this is about because it's about every expertise. No wonder Meno is still waiting for Socrates to answer his question.